Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? Matt Jarbo here, $3 Theater, and I want to sit there and talk with you guys today about the WandaVision series. This isn't like a Chapter 9, the series finale review. This is a whole overview of the last several weeks. And I have to say, first and foremost, yes, thank you to Kevin Feige, to Matt Shackman, to Jac Schaeffer, to Lizzie Olsen, to Paul Bettany, to the entire group of people at Marvel Studios who put this amazing project together. Now, if you're looking to learn more about its production history, where it came from and how it all came together, please check out my episode of PODIO commentary on this. I put a lot of time into this episode. It's a great listen. I think it's a good one to listen to. Link for that will be in the video description. Would really appreciate a like and a subscribe on that as well. Trying to build out that channel as I go into more podcasting here on the internet. That being said, so let me start off by saying that when I first heard about this concept, I wasn't necessarily like the most excited for it. The reason why had a lot to do with the fact that I just kind of felt that it was a bit of a too odd of a concept for me, right? Wanda Maximoff, the Vision, okay, their characters, coming off of Infinity War, which is when we first learned about this. They were both dead at the time. We knew Wanda was going to be coming back, but Vision was most certainly dead. And, freaking Kevin Feige had said multiple times that, what was going to happen in Infinity War and Endgame, those deaths in those movies were going to be permanent. So I always felt that it was kind of a take back on that particular idea at the time, except now I'm looking at it and I go, I see what he was going for, and he was mostly correct. But being the cheeky bastard that he is, he was able to work with this crew to find a way to make all of that null and void, which is very comic booky and also very Kevin Feige, because why look a gift horse in the mouth? Why turn down the ability to have something make more money and be more popular than ever before? And that ultimately is what this particular program is. This show has become the most popular show in the world. And it's not something that I think really anybody thought about. There's been a lot of interesting lack of conversation surrounding the Marvel Cinematic Universe since the release of Spider-Man Far From Home. The summer of 2019, July 2019, was the last time we got a movie. Here it is, the early part of 2021, and we just finished up watching a 9-part television show that is very interesting because the whole show itself was designed to mess with you, the audience. In fact, I have another video about that just came up. That's expectation versus reality, and how WandaVision was in fact an unreliable narrator. Yeah, I'm kind of pimping some of my own breakdowns of the show on this particular review, but I feel it all kind of ties into the grander conversation of it. This show did something that no one really thought they could ever really pull off. And that, of course, was going to be bringing Marvel to the small screen with Marvel Studio big budget movie type production and have it be compelling and interesting, especially Wanda Maximoff, because with no longer having Quicksilver around, having died in 2015's Age of Ultron, it just felt like a weird thing. And the concept of it taking cues from the sitcoms of the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s was an odd concept overall, but it's one that they pulled off masterfully, because the concept of the show is all about grief, and it's all about going through those different levels of grief and trying to process stuff when something bad happens to you. I refer to it as a cathartic experiment, because I feel like Wanda's journey to some extent, given the last year, has also been our journey as a species, as a people. And I really thank them for diving in to the grief process and allowing the show to take place in the way that it did, because what it was able to do was give us exceptional performances from not only Lizzie Olsen, but Paul Bettany, Teyonah Parris, Catherine Hahn. Practically everyone who was involved in the show did an amazing job, and the popularity that came from it was almost unheard of. Jimmy Woo is even at a point now where he might be getting his own spin-off series, because that's an actual pitch going forward, according to some guy who got popular off that idea on Twitter. But look at bringing back Kat Dennings for Darcy Lewis. That was something people weren't really expecting, and her popularity shot through the roof, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see more of her in future projects, perhaps even Doctor Strange 2 or Thor Love and Thunder, because they're filming that right now. Both of those movies are filming, one in London and one in down in Sydney. And this show has now going to have ramifications for at least Doctor Strange 2 and probably even Thor Love and Thunder, because we know how it's all connected. And that's the great part about the Marvel Cinematic Universe coming to television and actually being part of the cinematic universe, unlike what happened with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and all the other shows, the Netflix shows, everything else that they did. This is now completely within the confines of everything, and it was awesome. I loved it. We finally got that continuity that we wanted, and that was actually what Kevin Feige himself wanted to do. He was involved for continuity of story and to handle the actors. That was his primary focus in wanting to make these kind of shows. And it really does, well, show itself in regards to the final outcome of what we got, the 9 episodes. I mean, personally, if I was going to give it any kind of like criticism, I would like the episodes to be a little bit longer and to live in some of those worlds a little bit more. Episodes 1 and 2 were perfect. It felt like the Dick Van Dyke Show. It felt like Bewitched, and I really enjoyed the world building that it did. And I wanted to spend more time there because again, what they did in order to mimic and recreate those types of sitcoms is something that needs to be discussed as well. And they did. They went to a dialect coach to teach them how to walk and talk and sound like they're from those different decades and those different eras. They went out and they actually worked with experts to recreate the shooting style, to recreate sets, to make sure that they actually had the actors in the right makeup in order to be able to appear normal-ish on black and white. I mean, they shot in front of a live studio audience. They did everything that they could do in order to really mimic those kind of experiences. They even went to a laugh track expert, by the way. They went to a laugh track expert to teach them how laugh tracks changed over the different decades. I mean, that is how in-depth the show went to try to be authentic to its core concept, which is another reason why it was just excellent. Like, were there some visual flaws here and there? Yeah. Was there some kind of subpar acting every once in a while? Yeah, I kind of feel like as much as I enjoy Randall Park in the role of Jimmy Woo, there were some moments that didn't quite jive with me, but there's other moments that did very well, and I still love the character, and I want him to come back for more. I like the camaraderie between Darcy and Jimmy and Monica. I liked Monica's character a lot, and I'm so happy to see her get that little cameo tease at the end of where things are going to be going and who just wants to meet her. And then, of course, there's Catherine Hahn's Agatha Harkness, who, was great as Agnes leading into it as the nosy neighbor, at the role she assigned for herself. Getting her backstory was pretty great. Her motivations made a lot of sense because she was trying to, more or less stop Wanda, I think in her mind, from becoming the destroyer of worlds. And she failed. But now we get Wanda is the Scarlet Witch, and where the series left off with her studying the Darkhold, like she's astral projecting herself, very similar to Doctor Strange, we can see where things are going to be going. And that's one of the reasons why it was super cool. Another thing that they did that was great, that I really loved, was the aspect ratio change. When we were inside the Hex, it was your standard 4:3 aspect ratio. When we left the Hex, we went back to our quote unquote reality. That is when we got to see, that's when we got that whole, it went to standard 16:9 is what I'm trying to say. And I liked how they played with that. And there was even a moment when Wanda went into Agatha's house and she goes into the basement in episode 7. She goes into the basement, and as she's going into like the witch's cave or whatever, the aspect ratio shifts, right? It shifts because it showcases that she is in fact leaving the Hex and going back into the real world or another pocket of it. The little details on the show were fantastic. The special effects were definitely, for the most part, amazing. How they did everything was awesome. And the fact that this was something that we got to see on TV, over the span of 8 weeks was just awesome. And I loved it. I don't know if they're going to do anything more with this. I would hope that over the course of time that they do. I think given where it ended, obviously Billy and Tommy are going to definitely be coming back. Can we talk about that for a second? The ending of the show, when her and Vision walk the boys up, they walk them home, they put them in bed, they say that they love them, and then Wanda just says, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mother." And like knowing she's saying goodbye to her kids, like I have a 3-year-old daughter and I have an 18-month-old daughter, and it's like that would kill me as a parent to say, to know that they were going to go away. And I love that her motivation after the fact was to find a way to reunite her family. And I love that because it shows you that she's not a bad character and that she's still trying to grow. And there's a lot more to this whole world. And they really establish it. There are multiple times during the show where it was in fact hilarious and intense and scary and sad and deeply emotional. because that is all part of the core tenets of dealing with grief. And that's why it worked so well in what they did. The video about expectation versus reality is mostly for people who had their hopes up over some of the cameos that they thought they were going to get and what we actually got. But in reality, what we were given, and I say this, we were given something that I believe, given the 2020 pandemic, is a cathartic approach to storytelling and dealing with a very serious subject, that of course being the mental health surrounding grief, and giving it actual spotlight and really turning the conversation towards it. This was an amazing show. Could they have done more with like Mephisto and like Agatha Harkness and everything else? Yeah, sure. But they didn't have to. They didn't have to. They gave us a story of a woman trying to find her way through the darkness into the light. And she created her own reality as a result of it. And it just started mucking everything up. And she didn't realize the damage she was causing to other people. And that, of course, was something that she needed to deal with on her own. And that's why it was fantastic. The show is something that is infinitely rewatchable, in my opinion. I've already watched most of the episodes about 3 times. Looking forward to diving into the series finale a couple more times. And I look forward to what more Marvel is coming down the pipeline. Falcon and Winter Soldier in a couple weeks. And then not long after that, we're going to be getting Loki and Hawkeye. I mean, this goes to show you that they can put out content that is going to dominate on television because they have established the loyalty of the fan base. And that is who is going to be diving into these shows and talking about them and discussing them and disseminating them. And it's awesome. So again, like I said, thank you to Feige, Jac Schaeffer, Lizzie Olsen, Paul Bettany, Catherine Hahn, Tiana Paris, Kat Dennings, Randall Park, Evan Peters, everyone involved. Guys did a great job. And I can't wait to watch it again. I loved it. I think it's fantastic. And of course, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I think what we got was something that even The Mandalorian, in some aspects, as much as I love The Mandalorian, and I did cry at the end of season 2, I think this show gave us something a bit deeper than The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian played to my heartstrings of being a kid. This played to my heartstrings of being an adult and being a parent. And it's 2 fundamentally different things, but I love both. And I'm very thankful that they exist, and I'm very happy that they're here. But of course, as always, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your opinions. Let me know down in the comment section. Please leave a like, leave a comment. Tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right. And you guys can always watch more content, I don't know, here on the channel. I'll see you all later.